Welcome to the True Crime Never Sleeps podcast. I'm your host, Larry Elise. Today, on an all-new Murder Monday, we dive into the Knoxville couple murder. But first, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Poddex, for sponsoring this episode. Poddex are unique interview questions and episode starting prompts in the palm of your hand. Whether you're a new podcaster or existing broadcaster looking to grow your audience, or you just want to get more engagement, you're going to want to check out Poddex.com. Use the code Larry21 for 10% off your order. And stick around to the end of the episode to see Poddex in action. So now let's dive into today's topic. Channon, Christian, and Christopher Newsom were on their way to a friend's party when they were cruelly raped and murdered. This is yet another murder case, unique in its utter barbarity. The couple in Knoxville never saw it coming. Neither did their family in the entire town. It sent shocks into the American city, and many still recount it as the worst crime in their city. January 6, 2007 was a Saturday. 21-year-old Channon Christian and her 23-year-old boyfriend Christopher Newsom had planned a night out. After getting ready at a friend's apartment, she stayed back to wait for her boyfriend. It was around 8 p.m. when Christopher arrived at the parking lot. Little could they have imagined what would happen afterwards. The couple was attacked near Channon's SUV and ruthlessly shoved into its back seat. After securing their hands into a biting knot, they were taken to one of the five assailants' houses. What awaited them was an unimaginable night of being sexually assaulted and being brutally beaten. Later on, the Knox County acting medical examiner unfortunately divulged details of the sexual assault. Christopher was sodomized by at least one of the assailants and forced to walk barefoot on a railway's track, after which he was tied up and murdered on sight. He was initially shot in the neck with a sock shoved into his mouth to muffle any screams. Unfortunately for Christopher, the neck gunshot didn't work, and he suffered through the sharp pain as they fatally shot him in the head. The assailants lit his body on fire to cover up their tracks. Channon suffered a similar fate. After murdering Christopher, the five criminals returned to torture her. They repeatedly beat and raped her. The medical examiner had much to say about the cruel suffering inflicted on her. Quote, "She died after hours of sexual torture and sustained severe injuries due to sexual assault. It was extreme and much more than a simple sexual assault. Per the confession of one of the assailants, she was adamant about not wanting to die. She resisted till the very end. However, the cruel criminals knew no mercy. Before murdering her, they poured bleach down her throat to remove DNA evidence and scrubbed her body clean with it. The pain can only be imagined. She slowly suffocated to death as her face was tied into a small trash bag and left to rot in a residential waste disposal unit. She finally breathed her last between the afternoon of January 7th and January 8th. Dina Christopher, Channon's mother, woke up the next day on January 7th with inexplicable dread. By now, she had no idea what had happened, but motherly instincts, premonition, the harrowing events that were soon to unfold. She immediately tried to contact her daughter, but to no avail. When her friend from last night called to inform that the couple had not shown up at the party, Dina knew that something had happened. However, even she could not have imagined the sheer cruelty of what had transpired last night. She followed her instincts and called up 911. The police pinged Channon's mobile and found it near Cherry Street, a high-crime neighborhood in the city. It only cemented Dina's worst fears. As Knoxville News Sentinel reporter Jamie Satterfield said, quote, "It's not an area you go to unless you live there or unless you're up to no good." Meanwhile, the couple's parents frantically searched for their children as the police legally mandated a waiting period of 24 hours. They happened on Channon's car, which was ominously bleached down. Police knew something was up and immediately started their investigations. The parents were up for heartbreak when the police discovered Christopher's burning body on the railway on January 8th. His parents were beyond reconciliation. The police re-examined her car in a race against time, hoping that she would be alive. Little could they have imagined what had happened to her the night before. The police luckily happened upon an envelope in the car which contained Marcus Davidson's fingerprints. He was one of the assailants and a well-known carjacker who had recently gotten out of prison. To further add to it, a quick scan showed he was renting a small house in the Cherry Street area. The police rushed over to his house on January 9th and discovered Channon's lifeless body. Dina commented on the heartbreak at finding what her precious daughter had gone through. The police were adamant about catching the criminals. Channon's body had DNA evidence for most of them, despite the bleaching efforts. Soon, the police apprehended Eric Boyd, Vanessa Lynn Coleman, Marcus Davidson, and George Thomas. And Telvis Cobbins. All five had a criminal history, and most had just gotten out of prison. Since all five knew that incriminating DNA evidence was being discovered, they tried to blame each other to shorten personal sentences. The police did not miss this opportunity, making the most of it. Even if these five criminals were withholding the details of their role in the crime, Tennessee's criminal responsibility law dictated that you are held responsible if you are aware of the crime and do nothing to stop it. They all had at least admitted to being present in the house, making it relatively easy to charge them with some count. The police didn't let any of them escape. The Knox community, was shaken as details of the brutal murder were reported. The details unearthed the criminal's heartlessness. Vanessa's journal entry indicated that she had, quote, fun that day. It read, quote, last night was one of a kind. We stayed with a crackhead that is cool as hell. It snowed a little bit, but it's already melted. Let's talk about adventures. I had one hell of an adventure since I've been in the big TN. It's a crazy world these days, but I love the fun adventures and lessons that I've learned. It's going to be a long, interesting year. Luckily, or I guess happily, all five criminals were convicted in April 2008, and despite variations in their sentences, none got below 10 years. One of the criminals, Vanessa Coleman, was charged with 53 years. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. What do you think about this case? Did you know anything about it before watching or listening to this episode? Let us know. And as always, if you want to support the show, you can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/TCNS. Your support helps the channel grow, upgrade our equipment, bring in new hosts, be able to pay them. And as always, hit that like button, subscribe, and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and we will see you next time.